So I found I found the play. Check this out. Let me pull this up real quick.
This is a Meacham play.
No, this is the McLaurin play. Watch this. Mark Bullock broke it down. All right, you see the alignment? Watch McLaurin down at the bottom of the screen. And I'll pause it just in time for you guys to see the DB fall down.
Oh my gosh.
Look at McLaurin. Look, safety that way, corner that way. Look at this. McLaurin's by himself. But because Heineke had to step up and kind of into the pressure, the DB literally gets up, recovers, almost tackles him, and he comes back for the touchdown.
Wow.
Like, I didn't see that. Yeah, because of this, he didn't have the chance to set and throw until so late. And then it was just a YOLO ball at that point.
And I think that might have been one of those where Heineke couldn't see him because the linebackers were obscuring his view.
Because that's the other thing I would argue. He saw him the whole time. He just couldn't get his feet under him to throw the ball. Watch, his head never moves. He sees McLaurin. He sees it. He knows he's there. So that, you know what I mean?
You might be right. He looked like he was trying to get it to him.
Is that Ricky Seals-Jones that totally botched that block?
No, I think that was Leno. Hold on.
No, it's 87.
Let me get back to where? Here?
Right there,
That's Bates. That's Bates, right? This is Seals-Jones right here, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, watch this.
Oh, he gets beat. Look at this guy.
He just gets turned inside out, man.
Yeah, he does. And then look at this guy. Free rusher.
It looks like a sack. It looks like a sack for sure is coming.
There's Rouillet. There's Flowers. Is that Flowers? And this is Leno.
So look at Gibson. Watch Gibson.
He chips right here. And Leno, look, Flowers realizes it. Hold on. Flowers, his head is right here. And he is saying, oh, shit, right here.
This is a Kirk Cousins. This is a Kirk Cousins sack.
100%
times out of 100.
Oh, it is.
And then he runs around this guy. Now you've got this guy free run.
I mean, that's ridiculous. How did he get away from them?
He runs left and then is able to heave the ball. And McLaurin is able to make a play and score a touchdown.
I'll tell you what, Gibson made that play though. Without Gibson just positively standing that guy up for a second, it's over.
Oh, 100%. Anyways, I thought it was interesting. I saw that overhead view of McLaurin and how wide open he was, where if we had a clean pocket, that is not even, that's pitch and catch. That's practice. That's 7-on-7. You know, you can't even rehearse that.
Yeah, I'm nervous about Sunday. I just want to see them put an ass whipping on somebody at some point, so I don't have to spend the whole game just like on pins and needles. That's why I had to get out of chat. I had to get out of chat. I just can't stand it, man. It's like being on a psych ward. You got half the unit is manic and the other half is depressive. You know, it's like depending on the moment, depending on the last play. When they scored the first touchdown, Skins Orlando's like, that's it. I'm so done. I can't watch another.
Hold on, because we held them to a field goal. It was the first time we didn't give up a touchdown.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then his response was 3 and out. I'm calling it, and it was love you, Eric, but yeah, that was a little passive.
Yeah, I have enough of that in my own body without any encouragement.
But
this one has to be like this Saints game. When you looked at that schedule at the beginning of the year and you thought, okay, who are the big teams on that schedule? And there were about 5 or 6 of them. To me, the Saints game always stood out as being the one that you have to get. Like, we have to steal a game from one of these, stronger teams. And for me, New Orleans at home, and somebody alluded to it earlier, New Orleans is not the same team on the road as they are at home, especially outdoors. This has to be the one you have, because I honestly don't see how we're getting by Kansas City. I don't know how well we're going to fare in Green Bay on the road.
Kansas City's defense is awful.
They're about just as bad as us.
So I don't know why everyone says, I don't care about, I know Mark has a boner over Patrick Mahomes every minute of his life, but you know what? Patrick Mahomes can't do it on his own.
That
I
just
mean,
sounds
they're in the
like
same boat we are. They're having to score, the games that they've won, they're having to score, every time they have the ball. Their defense is worse than ours is.
except for the fact that they are getting turnovers, John, and we're not.
Yeah. We almost had one last week. Did you see that one?
We almost
tip
had
ball?
2. We should have had 2.
Yeah. Which
One
like we're
called
this
back on a
close.
stupid penalty. The other one called back because they blew forward progress after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, not
Well,
to-
anyway,
You
I
know,
don't.
We bragged on Bostic quite a bit, but he played that one touchdown that went right down the middle against us. And we had pretty good coverage. He played that about as good as you can possibly play that. And he nearly had a hand on that ball. Matt Ryan threw the perfect ball. And, I watched that and all I could think was, I bet you Twitter's blowing up over Bostic and his coverage right now, but that was probably exactly what Jack Del Rio wanted.
Probably.
And Matt Ryan just threw the perfect ball, and it is what it is.
I didn't like there's a lot of stuff on social media about, it wasn't, I'm glad Bostic is out for the year, but it was not far from that.
No,
Which
you're
I
right.
just don't like that. It's like, look, the guy is who he is. He does some things well. He does other things not as well, but he's doing what the coaches are asking him to do as much as he's able to. So I just don't like that.
I agree with that. And I was gonna make a point and I just got completely lost it. There have been plenty of times that Bostic has done it, like you can see him doing what is that, but the entire team is thinking. They're thinking more than they're playing. And that's nothing new. It is what it is. And until they're comfortable and until they're doing things based on where they don't think about it, we're going to find ourselves out of position.
I'm looking up to see who the rest of the NFC East plays this week. Well, it looks like.
Sorry, I'm looking. I'm attempting to fill a
the
promise
E-
I made to Chris.
The Eagles play at the Panthers, so that's a tough game, especially with them coming off a loss.
Haha.
Dallas and the Giants play in
There
Dallas.
you go, Chris. I told you it was going to work. It was going to happen.
So we are Giants fans this week. Hell, I give the Giants even odds to beat them, man, because you know how that rivalry is.
Yeah, I can
Dallas
see
has the
that.
devil's own luck, man. Dallas has the devil's own luck.
Well, I don't know
Yeah,
about that. Maybe right now,
but see, when is Dallas gonna Dallas? How many times do they look like the best team? And like everybody looks at them, and it to take away the media hype and the America's team and all that other stuff. How many times have you looked at them and said they're the better team, and then they lose to an inferior opponent like Arizona, back or Carolina, or they find a way to lose to maybe a better team, but they have the game in control, and then they find a way to choke it away to Seattle. Everybody says Redskins gonna Redskin. Well, Dallas is gonna Dallas at some point. I'm convinced of that.
Be nice if they do it in December. Don't we play them twice in December?
Yeah, do it, or make it so that those games don't matter anymore too. I'd be okay with that.
I wanted to ask you guys a question, and I know it's probably not an answerable question, but what if Fitzpatrick is ready to come back in a couple weeks? What do you do?
Heineke's
What do you
the
think?
player.
What do you think Rivera does?
He plays Heineke. I don't see how you can take Heineke off the field right now.
I agree with that, but I just don't know. Rivera is kind of a funny coach in that way.
I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of times that I've thought there's no way you can take guy X off the field now when somebody else comes back. And, sure as shooting, what happens? Coaches take the guy off the field and put the other guy back in. I don't think you can either. I think the way Taylor is playing right now, there's just no way. He stays under center, but
I guess my thought was we're heading into this, what's a pretty tough stretch of games. So let's say we win next weekend, but then it's like 2 or 3 straight losses. And then it's time, then Fitzpatrick's coming off IR. What then,
I think it depends on what Heineke does.
yeah.
If we see the Heineke we've seen 3 out of the last 4 weeks, I don't think you have a choice. If we see the Heineke we saw against Buffalo that throws 2 gimme interceptions, one of which, while the game is still in the balance, the other one when it's far out of it, you might have to have that conversation. But if I'm remembering correctly, last year, I mean, the only reason Kyle Allen didn't continue is because Jabril Peppers broke his leg. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't, and that was while Alex Smith was available, right?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah, I mean,
remembering?
I know
that
he's not
correctly?
afraid to make a bold decision or whatever. But
We-
I kind of feel like I really feel like Fitzpatrick, if he comes back this year, well, other than injury, and even in that scenario, I think our season's over. I don't know, man. I just don't have the feeling that our offense is going to play for him the way that they're playing for Heineke right now.
Let me turn your question around, John. If Fitzpatrick doesn't get injured, are we 2-2? Or are we 0-4?
I think we're 0-4. But I mean, that's totally unfair for me to say that. However, I'm just not and maybe, like I said, that he just looked terrible in that first game before he got hurt. Fitzpatrick, like he just looked lackluster. And I mean, I know it was just a short period of time.
The whole offense looked lackluster. It wasn't just Fitzpatrick. And it wasn't just Heineke that looked so much better. The entire offense perked up when he came on the field.
Well, the entire offense things looked different. I still will argue to this day that the longest completion or the longest pass attempt happened. We did not attempt a play that long until Fitzpatrick got hurt. When Heineke came in, does that mean Turner trusts Heineke more? It's possible.
Or Heineke's just saying, I'm gonna
F it. Let's rock and roll. Let's do it. I get that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where, I mean, if I'm Rivera and I'm Turner, I'm looking at it. I'm saying we're 2-2. We're heading into a difficult team stretch here. Who's going to give us? Not who is going to give us. Who are we the most comfortable with? Who's going to be able to win more often than not, or at least put us in a position to win more often than not? I don't see how you can pull Heineke off the field right now.
Well,
He's going to have 3 bad games in order to do that.
Yeah. I feel like we've got to be hovering around 500 when we get to the conference stretch. And if we are there, if we're around 500 entering into that big, long, stretch at the end of the season, we at least have a shot at a wild card. If Dallas doesn't implode, we at least have I mean, right now, I think somebody said we'd be a wild card team right now if the season ended today, which kind of crazy, but I guess.
Well, not only would we be a wild card team, we'd be a scary wild card team, despite the defense.
So, yeah, I hope you're right, man. Because I just don't want to. I just want to give the kid a chance. Give him a season. Give him a full season to show is he the second coming, or is he just a gamer with a little bit of.
Can he stay healthy? I think that's a big part of the evaluation. Is can he make it through 17 games? Can he at least play 15 of those 17? That's a huge part of whether you want to invest in the guy or not.
I think at this point, if nothing else, Heineke is playing himself into a fairly lucrative backup quarterback role for the next half dozen years or so.
He's got
I could see Heineke simply what he's done being at minimum a backup quarterback for the next 8 to 10 seasons. And That's because you still see guys in the league like, oh my God, what's Josh Rosen
Brian
finding his
Hoyer.
way as a backup.
So
you
he's
know,
top 10. He's top 10 almost in every quarterbacking category right
Right.
now. Heineke is.
And
Which
physically speaking, I think he's got every tool. I think physically, outside of, the laser cannon arm that Peyton Manning talked about, he has every physical tool that can make him effective.
Yeah,
He's
not gonna
probably
throw
as fast as almost anybody in the league. He's clearly got the pocket presence. He's clearly got the awareness, because you don't find McKissick on your fifth read. And McKissick was every bit to do with that play as anybody. He broke a tackle, and you saw him say, I've got to chug for this pylon. And he did it. So who gets the credit for that? McKissick gets it, but, Heineke does too. He gets a touchdown for it. But I can
I
tell you
love the
right
way
now,
he
there's
spreads the
probably
ball around, man. He threw to
24
9 different people.
Huh?
He's thrown to like 7, 8, 9, 10 receivers every single week, which to me, that's huge.
Yeah,
And
it's obvious that he's building a real rapport with McLaren, but it's also positive. It's also pretty obvious that he's not dependent on McLaren, which I really appreciate, because that means the defense can't just go, he's got one guy and only one guy,
and
if we
take that guy
one
away, and he's crippled. Yeah. Well, you look at that, like, you look at that play that he hit McKissick, and you can't tell me that there are 24 quarterbacks in the league that make that play.
He said it was his fifth read. I mean, I know that's kind of like we heard that from his college coach or his high school coach talking about, how many reads he goes through, but he said,
you can watch the play.
He went through 4 reads, and that was the last read, and that's why he threw it.
You can watch his eyes. You can watch the play. You can watch his helmet. You can watch all of that.
The other thing too, and I know Derek, you brought it up about, or Derek or John, one of you brought it up, but if Fitzpatrick comes back, does he take the job? Do you put Heineke back in there? Do you let Heineke ride it out? In regards to all that, if you have a situation where Fitzpatrick comes back and you give him the starting gig, he gives you absolutely no clarity as to the future of the Washington Redskin quarterback position and quarterback situation. When Rivera came in here, we all accepted that this is a 5-year plan at the very least. At the very least, if you let Heineke ride this season out, he gives you a lot better idea as to what route you have to take in the next couple seasons in regards to the quarterback position, in terms of an investment.
If our defense was playing like they were last year, or again, setting aside all the, the schedule wasn't that tough last year, but if our defense looked like it did at the end of last year, and with our offense and special teams the way they're playing right now, I feel like we could beat anybody at any time we could beat anybody. So the benefit, if he were to work out, if he were to actually be the long-term starter, Heineke just gets better and better. I mean, that would be huge, because then we could just focus on building around him, and we're not back in the crapshoot that we have lost, for 20 years running, trying to find a magic quarterback solution. Because I don't know, I don't like our chances. The only way we were ever going to find a great quarterback was stumbling into one, and it seems like we've stumbled into one.
So here's the play. And by the way, J.D. McKissick came out in an interview today and said that Taylor Heineke is a baby Russell Wilson. And McKissick, if I'm not mistaken, played with Seattle, correct? They played together. This is not him just talking shit. So here's the play. Here's the snap. The ball has been snapped. McKissick is here. We can watch him go through his progression. So he's looking right here, and I believe that's McLaurin with a deep corner. So he goes left side, far left. He drops back. He looks, now he's looking middle of the field, right? Ish. There's 2 more reads right here within very, very close proximity of each other. Now he's looking the deep ball. If I see his eyes right, if we're going by his helmet, whoever this is right here, I think it's Samuel or maybe De'Ami Brown. I can't tell. He's looking at that deep ball. That's not going to work. Okay. So now it looks like he almost comes back down to right here, right? If he's coming across with his crossing pattern, he rolls left. There's nothing covered. And then as he breaks, there's your guy right there. And then he breaks this tackle, and then watch him hit another gear. So if we watch it in real time, you can see his eyes change. 1, 2.
He had McLaurin with the first read if he hits him right away, but I'm glad he didn't. I'm surprised they didn't challenge. Was that within 2 minutes?
Yeah,
They looked at it. They looked at it, but
reviewed.
because they called it a touchdown on the field, it was almost impossible to overturn.
I wasn't sure he broke the plane the first time I saw it, but
I didn't think he did. Part of me was like, please put us at the half-yard line so we give them 0 time to try to recover. But then I was like, I also don't want to put this in Hopkins' foot, so I hope it's a touchdown.
Derek, you could have made that field goal.
That I don't care. It's I don't care. I don't even want to try it. We already we had to rely on an offsides penalty to hit a second shot against the Giants. I scored a touchdown. Don't leave it up to the kicker.
So we really didn't talk about it on the main pod, but Bostic's out. Do we think Davis gets all those snaps this week, or do we do something else at linebacker?
Well, they can't do anything now. What are they going to do? You're going to move Holcomb to middle?
I still think they're going to sign somebody at linebacker. Somebody said they're looking for veterans at linebacker. And I
read on Twitter there was legitimate interest in Smith.
Yeah. So I don't know, but Bob, I mean, obviously that's not going to happen this week. And even if it did, I mean, you can't just throw somebody in there.
I don't know if you guys spent much time paying attention to Davis when he's in there. Sometimes it's really hard to tell whether he's in there or not, because we're looking at that side view, and in 2s and 3s look a lot alike from, that slant eye kind of thing when you're looking.
And they're moving
the
100
field.
miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Then they start moving, and it's really tough to read the numbers. And so unless they actually zoom in or something, but I watched Davis on, I don't know, I guess about a half dozen plays. He made a couple of really nice plays. One I specifically remember where he chased the play all the way across the field, and he made the tackle on the sideline and stopped the guy from getting a first down.
I think that was on 4th down, right?
Yeah, it was a 3rd or a 4th down play. It was a big play. It needed to be what it was, and Davis made the play pretty much by himself. He also got trucked a couple of plays. I mean, just positively blown right out. And he would have been the guy that was in position to make a play, and didn't and couldn't. So I'm going to kind of be watching that this weekend.
Well, then I ask you, what are you looking for? We wanted flashes, right? You look at a guy who's played 4 games in the NFL, you want flashes. You're not looking for perfection.
No, I'm not looking for perfection, but I also expect him to be athletic enough to not get destroyed by a guard that he should be running circles around.
So who's the defensive quarterback? Because I always thought that's the reason Bostic was in there, is because he was kind of the one that was making adjustments.
Holcomb's got the green dot.
You think Holcomb?
I know he does. They've shown it on the back of his helmet a couple of times. Holcomb's the guy calling the plays.
So here's another question for you. Why don't they just tell Collins you're playing linebacker? Why?
I don't think that.
Do you think that's it, that he can't do it, or you think it's just creates another problem? I mean, because it kind of seems like a no-brainer, I think, to a lot of people.
Who do you bring in at safety? Is that Reeves then?
No, Reeves.
Everett?
No, you play at that point. You would play. You'd move Curl over to Strong, and then. Well, yeah, I guess you could sign Reeves or somebody like that.
It just seems like it's easier to fill that gap.
Who's on the depth chart? Is Reeves not on the depth chart anymore?
No, he got released.
Yeah,
he's walking the street.
Is he really?
Is
I
he not
believe
on our
so.
practice squad?
I thought he was back on the practice squad.
He might
I
be.
believe he is.
So I've got the depth chart up in front of me.
That's what I was just digging for.
See, I don't think it's that. But to answer your question, I don't think it's that easy to say Landon Collins, you're now a weak side linebacker. Because let's
So
be
they've
honest,
got
do
the
you
J-
want?
They've got Landon and Cameron started as starters, and then DeShazer, Everett, and Bobby McCain.
Yeah, McCain.
as
That's who I was thinking of. But McCain show. When you look at Collins, though, do you want him as your weak side backer? I don't, because your weak side backer is going to find himself man to man against running backs and linebacker and tight ends.
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
you're
I think
asking
Collins
for?
is better. Collins is better suited to that than any of our current linebackers, though, except maybe Davis. But
So-
Well,
Davis
but we
would-
haven't. But then I would argue against it. My response to that would be, how often have we seen those guys in man coverage, or are they in zone? And then at
Yeah.
that point, what does it matter?
So the other thing we didn't talk about with the injuries is Hudson and Mayo, because one of those guys is going to have to step up. And I thought Mayo was getting ragged on social media today, but I thought he looked pretty damn good in the preseason. I mean,
He
I know it's
definitely
preseason.
flashed. He looked pretty good.
I don't know why people are hating on him so much. I know he's not a starter or got a big pedigree
He's your
or whatever.
fifth
You know, all
linebacker.
those-
What are you expecting?
And all those guys are armchair quarterbacks, unlike us experts here. So
Yeah, but at least we know what we
Well,
don't know.
one of the
right?
things that
Fully
one
acknowledge.
of the things is that people need a dose of rational thought, and it's that one guy might look out of position, and that guy might not be the guy that's out. How many times did we look at safeties and they're like, "Oh my God, he just got burnt," and then you look at the replay and that guy was on the other hash mark, and it looks like he's 15 steps behind because he wasn't even supposed to be anywhere near the ball anyway.
Yeah.
So to justify, and I will defend the coordinators when necessary, to justify that is if the players aren't executing, the scheme means nothing.
true.
So I one thing I will say though is I did like about Del Rio is that there was a little nuance this week. You saw a little bit of a little change, and I hope that's a trend. I hope we find ourselves looking at it and saying
On
more
D,
and more frequently, huh?
are you talking about on defense?
Yes. And it did it work out every time? No, it didn't. But I can tell you that Paul referenced that 3 and out. The last I was looking at formations I'd never seen before. There were plays that I saw where Montez Sweat and Chase Young were on the same side of the ball.
Yeah, and it wasn't prevent. I mean, that was the refreshing thing. It
And
wasn't just
for the
like,
record, I had no more confidence in that drive, Paul, than you did. I
well,
just assumed we'll
we've
never
all
see
seen it,
Paul
man.
again.
How many times have we seen it? We've seen the end of that movie.
Right.
Way
I
too
know how
many times.
exactly. I know how this play ends. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the night at the theater?
Exactly.
I'm praising Jesus on those, last minute possessions, and I don't even believe in Jesus, but I'm praising him because I just know what's coming.
I in the highlight package that I saw, granted, there were a couple of exceptions, but I saw Sweat and Young playing with more control, not, that big sweep around the end and leaving a massive gap for anybody and their grandmother to run through. There were a couple of plays that they didn't, that they pushed it too far, but there seemed like there was more contain on the corners this time around.
There were also a couple plays where we let Matt Ryan, who runs about a 9-minute 40, scramble for multiple, a first down. We did it on that final drive, and
We let him get 16 yards on that final drive on one play, and I about threw up.
The good thing is we held him onto the ground for about 16 seconds afterwards as well.
yeah, heads up play by John Allen. Was that Allen or Payne? Somebody
I was
later.
really worried. I was really worried we were going to get flagged
For
on
delay
that,
a game? Yeah.
because we definitely dragged our way back to the line of scrimmage. Oh well, man, we won.
I hope
right?
it's an evolution. We've seen a better offense. Look, and you can't argue this. Well, I don't think you can argue. The offense has been better week 4 than it was week 1. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And
That
that's
was
not
the
just
best. When's the last time we played that well on offense overall?
well, when was the last time? I think I saw a stat that the last time we scored 30 points in 2 games in the same season, not even within 4 weeks, but the same season was something in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
We're missing really consistent play out of that second wide receiver slot.
Yeah.
When Curtis Samuel becomes a legitimate threat, defenses are going to have to pick their poison. Right now, they can still not necessarily do that.
Well, the
De'Ami
other
Brown
thing we have
doesn't
to think
scare anybody
about-
yet.
The other thing we have to think about is De'Ami Brown is, and I attribute this to a young team. He's only played 3-4 games in the NFL.
Right. And
Where's
wide
he gonna be
receivers
at week
mature
10,
slowly.
week
We all
11?
know that.
Huh?
You know, as a general rule, Terry McLaurin aside, wide receivers mature slowly. I mean, in the NFL, you know, even first round draft picks, you're really looking at 2 and 3 years before those guys are really, really consistently dangerous, because very few of them have had to run the precise type of route in college ball that the NFL game requires. And it takes time to learn all those nuances, as well as, you know, blocking. Most of them weren't asked to block in college. You know, they don't know what they're doing. So
Yeah, a block in college is running a go route and clearing the left corner and the safety at the same time.
We're going to have a big problem if Curtis Samuel isn't on the road back. We're going to have a big problem, because you look at the other guys, you got De'Ami Brown. Brown, he looks just like what he is, right? A really fast rookie. I don't know that he's going to be in the short term on number 2. Adam Humphries could step up. I mean, he's been a bigger
than number
factor on
2.
other teams, but then you've got DeAndre Carter, who I'm kind of like, let's see what DeAndre Carter can do with more touches. I just don't know who Cam Sims. I mean,
No.
I would really
feel like
to see
Kelvin, man,
them-
bring Kelvin back. Let him get him back in the mix. I don't know.
I would really like to see them come out on Sunday and take a couple of really early shots on a fly route with De'Ami Brown. You know, just turn the kid loose. Just don't ask him to do anything. Just go beat your guy and run up the field and scare the bejesus out of somebody and throw the ball at him. And maybe the ball goes out of bounds. Maybe it goes over
We've
his
done
head,
that a couple times.
you know, but make New Orleans respect the fact that we're going to take that shot over there to that side and open with that.
I don't see why we don't do that more.
I don't
And
either.
we've seen it. I've seen it a couple times, but when you have the vertical threat that we have, and I'm not talking about just McLaurin or De'Ami Brown, line up under center, have
Who's a
JD
vertical
McKissick.
threat?
What?
Who's a vertical threat other than those 2 guys? And I don't think Brown's a vertical threat yet.
Well,
Because he can't locate the ball, and he can't catch it half the time. I mean,
here's my
hard.
thought process. Here's my thought process. You line up single setback, right? First down, first play of the game. Line up under center with McKissick behind you. You have McLaurin to the right. At the end, you have, obviously I would have preferred Logan Thomas, but he's hurt now. So Seals Jones. You have McKissick behind Heineke, and you have De'Ami Brown to the left. And then before you go into this audible, knowing you're going to audible, you just do it to confuse them. Heineke stands up, audibles. McKissick shifts out to the left side. You have Seals Jones shift out right as a slot, and you run 4 verticals. You know, it's just something to move and manipulate and make them think these boys are going to put the ball downfield. And if it connects, great. You get a pass interference, so be it. That's awesome too.
Problem is, though, when you're only converting 30% of your third downs, that's a pretty bold strategy, because you know what I'm saying? I mean, when you are more confident that you're going to keep the drive going without a giveaway play, because chances are most of the time you're not going to complete a 70-yard pass downfield. Now you're putting yourself in a really tough spot.
I get that, but I'm thinking, let's look at what we're doing. Joe Gibbs used to be the best at this. He was calling plays in the first quarter to set up the defense in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter.
Oh yeah. And I'm not sure coordinators do that now. I'm not sure coordinators play that level of chess anymore.
Because you do that on the first play of the game, and then in the third quarter, you line up the same way, and then you audible, but you shift McKissick off to your left hip, and then you run 3 verticals and you leak him. Guess what
Right, maybe
happens?
slant instead of a.
You know what I'm saying? And you just leak him. He stays in pass pro, and he chips, and then he leaks into the flat. Now everybody's running downfield with the verticals, and McKissick is available for that big play where you get the ball in his hands. So
I'd kind of like to see him go with. I'd kind of like to see them work a little 2 running back.
I was
Why
just
not?
about
Why
to
don't we
say
do-
that, John. I was
Yeah,
waiting
hell
for
yeah.
Derek to finish.
Why don't we
I
do
want to
that?
see McKissick and Gibson in the backfield in a pro set. And
And
how
Jared
long's it been
Patterson.
since we saw a legit pro set in this town?
Yeah. You think they would be trying it because that's the strength. That's definitely the strength of our offense, other than McLaren. And Jarrett Patterson, unfortunately, I think he got like 2 carries last week. Hasn't really been able to break out at all.
He'll get
Or even-
something at some point in time this year. Gibson will miss a game. He's not going to play all 17.
Here's my what I'm thinking. Okay, Curtis Samuel, he's lined up in the backfield, very comfortable back there, right? McLaurin's lined up in the slot. Why don't we move these guys around? What would happen to the defense if we ran up to the line, walked up to the line of scrimmage? You've got Curtis Samuel lined up in the backfield, McKissick's flanked out in the slot, and then you move them, shift them, motion them, do these things. Make it so they have to wonder, where is it going? You know what I mean? Instead of just lining up and saying, we're going to bully ball you. That's where I'm critical of the offense.
Maybe it's coming. Maybe they're working up to it. I mean, I really feel like that is kind of. I always thought Scott Turner was going to be one of those kind of offensive coordinators.
I did too. I was excited. I mean,
So maybe he just feels like that they're working up towards to it.
But do you see what I'm like? What's that going to do to your defense?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of. We're going to line up, and you're going to know exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to
beat you. Yeah.
I miss the days of.
There's a time and a place to do that,
right.
though.
I miss the days of the fourth quarter Rigo drill where they walked out there and the Hogs looked at the defense and went, "Sorry, man."
Do it again. Do it again.
And we're just going to keep doing it, right? And
You
they
mean,
they just kept doing it, and
when
the
you
other team
punk
knew
Randy
exactly
White?
what was coming.
Yeah.
I love.
Was that Jacoby, right? Was that Jacoby? Jacoby went to Randy White and said, "We're coming at you, and there's nothing you can do about it." Was it Jacoby?
The Jacoby or Grimm?
Grim. It was Grim.
Yeah, I think it was Grimm. Grimm was always the one with that with a little bit of
He-
mouthy.
Put his hand in the dirt, and he looked at Randy White and said, "Randy, we're coming, and there's nothing you can do about it." But I don't know, man. I see a lot of I see a lot of flexibility. I see a lot of versatility, and I see a lot of things you could do to make the defense wonder where you're going. Instead of, I'm convinced that the interception against the Buffalo Bills was simply because we had run the same play 5 times. Where are we going to get that change? Where are we going to get that manipulation? Where are we going to get that defensive line looking and saying, "Oh my God, what is about to happen?" And the linebackers screaming and everybody tapping their head and saying, "You get that guy, I get this." And then the next thing you know, there's the blown coverage that we've seen how many times against us.
Here's another one I want to see: McKissick and Gibson on the field at the same time, and line Gibson up as the wideout he was in college.
Right. Why do we not
know
do
the dude
that?
can play we know the dude can play the position.
I would love to see what our running backs are averaging out of the backfield, because we've seen 2 explosive plays. And
Well,
maybe Turner.
McKissick's averaging like 7 or 8 yards out of the backfield, catching balls.
Maybe-
You mean?
John's got McKissick's numbers right off the top of his head because he's got a sore spot about JD not getting the ball enough.
Well, there is the argument to be made that maybe that they're picking and choosing their spots, but the play to McKissick this past weekend was not the primary read. That's not who that play was designed for.
No, he was totally the read of last resort.
Well,
I don't
McKissick,
even think he was supposed to be in play there. He had nobody to block, and the rest of it fell apart. And he said, "I'm just gonna run out here," and next thing you know, it's a touchdown.
so Gibson had 75 all-purpose yards against Atlanta. All but like 12 of them were on the ground. McKissick had 59 all-purpose yards, and almost none of them were on the ground. They were almost all through the air. So they're
Right,
definitely recognize what he can do. It's just, I wish they would find ways. I mean, I feel like they are finding more ways. It's not like it takes a genius to figure out he's making plays, but I feel like they could use him a lot more than they are.
And I think there's going to be more room underneath, John, once we've got Samuel doing his thing on the other side, because they can start running. They can run one of those guys deep and one of those guys middle, and that pulls your coverage out of the middle of the field, and whoever's playing tight end is going to pull a linebacker, and it's going to leave you much more space underneath. Right now, I don't think they're not respecting De'Ami Brown at all. That's pretty much single coverage. And so it leaves things clogged up. And
Well, he
I
hasn't
think,
proven that you have to respect him.
right, exactly. Which is why I said I think I would come out and start throwing at that kid until he caught something and hurt somebody.
Yeah, it's hard though, because I mean, we know that position it's very rare that somebody comes out in their rookie year. Like McLaurin was really an anomaly. Most of the time receivers struggle, and so maybe it's just going to take him 2 or 3 seasons to really.
Well, even so, the story behind McLaurin was that he was a special teams ace. He was going to be the 3rd round pick, and he was going to be the special teams guy that was going to be like the next Lorenzo Alexander. And then he blew the hell up.
Yeah.
And they decided, you know what? We have value somewhere, and it's not covering punts and returning kickoffs.
They're giving Brown every opportunity to succeed, though. I was very surprised to find out that he is 2nd on our team in targets. I mean, he's not producing, but they're trying to feed him the ball.
I didn't realize he was 2nd. I figured he was like 4th or so.
There's
Behind Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, and McKissick.
there's a drastic drop off after McLaurin, but he's currently 2nd in targets. And granted, I mean, Thomas didn't play the majority of that Atlanta game, but even going into the Atlanta game, Brown was just 1 off from Thomas in terms of total targets. One was
Wow.
at 14, the other was at 13. So
Where's
they're
McLaurin?
trying to make it work.
Where's McLaurin?
164.
39 targets after 4 weeks.
I may have to rescind my safety blanket statement. If he's thrown at 39 times, that's,
Mhm.
I mean, that's 10 a game. He's getting 10 targets a game.
And they're not cheap targets. They're not bubble screens and swing
Yeah,
passes.
no.
They're
And I mean, if we're throwing the ball 30 times a game, that means he's getting a third.
which
So-
is what it should be. The guy, and you've seen what he can do. The ball's in the air. He can make a play on it.
This is true. I'll tell you what, he's proving that he was way underdrafted.
So Adam Humphries has 1 more target than De'Ami Brown and twice as many receptions, just to put it in context. So
Now,
I
know
think that's a little.
Now, my
Everyone-
question is, are those easier? Are those
No,
easier
yeah, very
receptions?
much so. Very much so. Because a lot of the De'Ami Brown targets are downfield. If you look at a lot of the plays, they're
So let me blow you out. Let me blow your bubble. De'Ami Brown has 10 yards per reception. Adam Humphries has like 7.5. So I mean, it's not dramatic.
but
I'm
that's
just
per
saying that everyone talks
reception,
about
not per
Humphries like
attempt.
he's like an afterthought. De'Ami Brown. Humphries is outperforming De'Ami Brown
No,
period.
there's no question about that. But I think what Derek's getting at is it's harder to complete a pass for 25 or 30 yards than it is to complete that 5 yard,
He's not
out.
complete, but I'm saying the stats don't support that. He's not.
But no.
Not
You
catching.
did. You gave me total yards. You didn't give me yards in the air.
Yeah, I want
Humphreys is
air
getting
yards.
yards after the catch.
He
Humphreys
is getting
making some
Like,
hay on his own.
Humphreys has had a couple pretty important catches on third and 6, 3rd and 7, where he goes for 12 or 13, but he's catching it on a crosser. The ball's in the air for 4.5, 5 yards, and he catches it. He had one
And
on
then he
that
adds
final
4.5,
drive.
5 yards to that.
I think he had one on that final drive that set us up for that game-winning touchdown, where he caught the ball on a crossing pattern, and he was only 2 or 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, and he ended up getting 12.
That
I
was
guess
his
what
only
I'm saying,
catch of
I'm
the day.
not discounting what you guys are saying about their different kinds of receivers, but here's the thing. Brown is catching 36% of his balls, and Adam Humphries is catching almost 75%. So
Legit.
so I'm just saying, to me, it's like get Adam Humphries more involved, not don't keep trying to force it to Dimey Brown, who can't catch the ball half the time.
Well, I tend to
All right,
agree,
so
but like
here's the next question. How many of those incompletes for Brown are actual credited drops as
Very
opposed
few.
to wasn't catchable?
Because how many times have we seen him go on a streak pattern and we throw it down and he's double covered and the ball, falls aimlessly out in the middle of the field?
And John, don't mistake what I'm saying for being a De'Ami Brown, a fan, because quite frankly, I think De'Ami Brown's time on the field dries up and blows away when Curtis Samuel is 100% healthy.
Yeah, he's not a number 2. He doesn't warrant being a number 2 right now.
No,
Correct.
just
I
saying,
agree with that also.
not yet.
I mean, he's
He
no
may
better
get there
than
one
Cam
day,
Sims
but
right now.
Brown was always going to be a project. I mean,
He was lucky to fall to us in the 4th or the 3rd, and he was one of those guys we drafted. He should not be above number 5 on our depth chart right now.
No, he
If
shouldn't
you
be.
want to talk about targets.
I guess I just question whether or not
Hold on, are you being critical of the play calling?
yeah.
Wait a minute.
I just think sometimes we try to, and we've seen it with someone on the defense whose name I won't mention. It starts with an A though. We've seen this, everyone talk about speed. Cam Sims' ability, his athleticism. It's like, you know what, man, if you can't execute consistently, I don't give a shit. It's great. I mean, it's great that you have all that athleticism and all that speed, but if you can't play the position at a high level, I don't want you out there getting multiple opportunities. I
I'm
hope
trying
they
to figure out who the hell you're talking about on defense whose name starts with an A.
well, at the moment, I'm not thinking even about our team. I'll tell you what you just described to me. Devin Hester is a wide receiver. He was amazing as a return man. He never scared anybody as a wideout.
Well, we had our own version of Brandon Banks. How many times we force feed that guy on jet sweeps and bubble screens?
So, I mean, I'm all about
you
you giving him an opportunity, and maybe he's going to turn into a Santana Moss. Maybe he will. But I'm just saying right now, I think he's hurting us more than he's helping us.
Who, Brown?
Yep.
Well, I just think we're barren of opportunity. I just don't think we have another choice. We have to force feed him to make it so they respect somebody on the other side of the ball.
And, here's the other thing. I'm not sure Heineke's the right quarterback for the game De'Ami Brown plays.
No, you might be right about that.
You know who Brown is? And I'm not dwelling. Haskins is the perfect. Put the ball 60 yards downfield and let the guy run underneath it.
50-yard frozen rope is De'Ami Brown's game, right? And
theoretically,
yeah, theoretically. And let's face it, Heineke is never going to throw a 50-yard frozen rope. That's just not going to happen. In fact, what did the guys say? Was it this weekend or was it last weekend? The announcers were like, there's plenty of zip on his ball, but it always seems to arrive soft. was how they were talking about Heineke's ball. It was like He throws a very catchable ball.
It's
not
like a
he's-
40-yarder slushy is what it is. It's not a 50-yard on a
yeah,
rope, like
exactly.
On a
a
rope.
little slushy at the end. I don't know. Well, I agree with you. That's a problem, though. We got to find somebody to.
But
That's why
I
I'm
think
worried about
Brown could
Samuel.
be that guy. I think we're just 18 months early. We're talking about a guy who's played 4 NFL games. He played 1 season at UNC.
Well, and I think Samuel, like John just said, I think Samuel's the guy. You know, it's just a matter of how healthy is he? Is he playing at 100%? Is he playing at 90%?
So then
You know.
so then what are you looking at? Are you looking at 2022, where you're talking about De'Ami Brown on the outside and Samuel can be that flex guy? You're talking about a whole different dynamic after a guy's played 17 games in the NFL at wide receiver.
No, I think Samuel is still number 2 in a couple of years. I don't see-
Right, but well, let me rephrase that. But hold on, the guy outside is not necessarily the number 2.
right. But what I'm saying is in order of importance and in order of snap count and in order of guys that we're going to depend on, I see it being
McLaurin.
McLaren and Samuel for the next 2 or 3 years, unless
Logan
somebody has a
Thomas.
really stupid injury.
Curtis Samuel. Yeah, and this is what I'm saying is De'Ami Brown's number 5.
Right.
And that's where he should be.
Right. And
Just 'cause he lines up
maybe
on
he
the-
works his way up to 3 on the depth chart in 2 or 3 years.
We just haven't seen the start of the Dax Milne era. That's why.
But that's, I think that's where we're losing focus here. Is the reason De'Ami Brown is getting the focus is because we don't have Samuel. It's not because they want him. They have to force feed somebody to take the pressure off of McLaurin. And Jesus, I almost said Ovechkin because I liken it to hockey. And I don't know if you guys follow the Capitals, but it's the same thing. Is Ovechkin has one of the best shots in hockey. And when he sets up in his office, as they call it, it's as potent as a shot as anybody. But if you don't have a threat on the other side, the goaltender just stands there and waits for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even if it's a failed shot, you have to force them to respect it. So even if you don't believe De'Ami Brown is going to actually make the catch, and or at least more often than not, it's not going to work, quote unquote, work. Doing that is where you set the defense up in the first quarter so you can beat them in the fourth quarter.
Right. No, you're not wrong. I think this weekend's going to tell us a lot. With Logan Thomas out now, I'm not sure that they depend on Seals Jones nearly as much as they depend on Thomas. I think that weight falls on Samuel if he's ready to go.
He got moved back to questionable today.
That tight end signed today. That kid's pretty good. I don't know if you guys, I can't remember his name. It's Jace
Sternberger.
We signed him or New Orleans?
Sternberger.
No, we signed him.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
We signed him to
Reyes at?
We signed him to the active roster.
Well, that means Reyes is still on the shelf, right?
He was in college. He was one of those guys that left college early. He was a candidate for that tight end of the year national award, whatever it's called. And he's a big kid. The biggest thing with him is when he went to Green Bay, he got hurt. And then when he got healthy, he had I think he got suspended for a couple of games for the NFL substance abuse. I don't know if it was substance abuse or performance enhancing drugs or whatever, but he got dinged on that. He got a DUI for, I think he was drunk sitting in a car, one of those kind of deals, wasn't actually driving. So he's just had a bumpy start, but watch some tape on that kid because he can play. So, and I think that's why they signed him to the active roster, not the practice squad.
Well, he was on a practice squad. We could not have signed him to another practice.
No, he was on Green Bay's practice squad.
Right, which means if we're going to sign him, he has to go to an active roster.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that tells you something when they're not going to put Reyes out there, who's been with us for, even though, we all know where he's at experience wise. He bumped right past him, and I don't know whether he'll suit up or not.
Well, I think that's legitimately, I think that's a special teams move. And I think that's a situation where they're like, who's going to benefit us over the next 3 weeks more than it's going to be benefiting everywhere else. But Reyes is on our active roster, isn't he?
No.
He has to be. We couldn't have moved him to the practice
Well,
squad. He
yeah,
was on the
I guess
final
he is.
53.
They didn't activate him. He hasn't. He's yet
He's
to
been
be activated.
inactive, but he's still on our final 53.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
Yeah, in fact, the current Washington depth chart on ESPN shows 4 active tight ends.
Tight ends. Yeah.
Seals,
I thought
Jones,
so.
Bates, Reyes, and Sternberger. Fascinating. I'll tell you what's concerning, man, is all the Q's behind names.
I think Ron's starting to play games.
Maybe,
Why is
but
Curtis
some of those
Samuel-
got to be legit.
Why is Curtis Samuel questionable, activated, plays four or catches 4 balls, plays a game, and then he's regressed from healthy to questionable again?
I don't know.
Hey, Derek, give me screen.
Huh?
Give me screen control for a minute, if you know how to do that.
I thought I knew how to do that. Maybe I don't know how to do that. I thought all I had to do was click the little right button there.
This is compelling. Let's see if I can do it. I don't think I can do it.
Uh,
You can't
no, I
click
don't
on.
want to make you the host. Can you share now? I've made you the spotlight.
Let's see. Are you guys seeing my screen?
No,
Oh,
we
yeah.
see your face.
Well, damn.
All
Nobody-
your face
Nobody wants that.
in
Hold on.
high res, man.
Try that now. Can you share now?
Yeah, this is compelling right here. Let's see.
It'd be even more compelling if we could see it, John.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
obviously,
hold on. I made it so I should have changed it so that multiple people can share simultaneously. Multiple part advanced.
Oh, I've got a big green button right down in the middle that says share screen.
Yeah, you can't share screen.
John,
Right
look,
down dead center.
Dead center underneath, right above your task.
There you go.
so this is Jay Sternberger at Texas A&M.
So there's the middle of the field. It's Sternberger, one-on-one, taking Gamecocks.
Jesus, he carried him 30 yards.
Wide open Sternberger.
He's a big big physical guy.
Knocks a player's helmet off, and Santos Ramirez.
And he's got a little bit of an attitude too, doesn't he?
I like it.
God,
I won't make you watch a bunch of them.
He's got some wheels.
From behind to the end zone, touchdown, A&M, and it's Sternberger, his 4th touchdown catch of the year. This has turned into the game of the week. On rivalry weekend in mind, has Sternberger.
I remember that game.
I'll tell you what,
I actually
somebody's
watched
all
that
over
game live.
Wikipedia.
Play in the second
When
quarter.
it
got
was
him
big on
listed
the
as
Mon
a
crew.
Jay Sternberger.
So anyway, you get the idea.
Throws over the top, touchdown, Sternberger.
You get the idea anyway.
He was a
Yeah, he's
third
big
round
physical.
pick.
I like it.
Yeah, he's not a total scrub. I mean, I bet you the Packers didn't want to lose him.
You know, then they should have been paying attention to the fact that tight ends are going down around the league.
Yeah, we're not the only ones. Gronk just broke a couple ribs, didn't he?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, because he was my starting. I had to start Kyle Pitts this weekend against John, and then hope he didn't go off.
Hold on. Wait, what did Kyle Pitts do against Washington?
He
Not
didn't
much.
catch any touchdown balls.
Zipola is what he did against Washington.
He did enough for me to win my fantasy game. That's all I
He-
cared about.
Yeah, but he didn't no touchdowns, no big receptions. But a bunch of people were saying he's going to go off.
It looked like
No.
he was going too early for the first few series, and then he just after Holcomb shut him down in the end zone there, where he kind of got in the way of that pass coming his way, he disappeared after that. That was it.
They kept targeting him though. I mean, he finished the game with like 8 or 9 targets, but he only had 4 catches.
Yeah, he's not and hasn't had a touchdown in 2021 yet.
He has 0 career touchdown catches.
But you know, so he's who I'm playing at the moment because Gronk's riding the pine.
Well, I had to go out and get Jared Cook today, so that's my starter.
Gronk's riding the gurney. What are you talking about? The pine.
Yeah, but you know what? This is Gronkowski, and Tampa Bay refuses to put him on IR because he's a freak of nature. They're like, he could play this week. I don't think he will, but my guess is he's still at least a week away. But
All right, so I hope you guys are on the Jace bandwagon now.
Hey, look, a weapon is a weapon. I don't care where they come from. I don't care what jersey number they wear. I don't care what position they line up out of. I wish we would move them more around and get a guy like that involved. Get Bates involved. Move Logan. Why in the world does Logan Thomas to this point not line up as a wide receiver number 2? The outside guy. Line him up at Z. Who cares? What's the worst that happens? They freak out a little bit because they don't know how to cover it. Take
need
their
him
top corner and line them up against our tight end.
We need him to be fresh for special teams coverage, man. We can't be.
You've made Derek positively speechless now.
He actually flushed at that.
Back in the day, the Cleveland Browns had the UFO defense. I want the UFO offense. You got no effing clue what's going to happen at that point. You know what I mean? It's completely strange. You don't know where it's coming from. Throw everything you can at them. Heineke's the kind of guy he can make it work.
Guys, I'm checking out.
Yeah, I gotta upload this, so I gotta. It's already 11 o'clock.
Have a good one, Paul. You're out next week. You said, right?
Yes, next week I'm unavailable. I have I got a good friend of mine who's gonna be visiting me for a couple days, and he's coming on Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'm out of commission for next week.
Well, the good
All
news is in Canada, you guys are actually allowed to see other people for that's breaking news.
Yeah, we have our Thanksgiving weekend this coming weekend. So Canadian Thanksgiving is this coming Monday. So they've actually approved gatherings here in Ontario to reasonable limits, whereas last year they didn't allow any gatherings whatsoever. So
Have a good night, guys. Have a good week, Paul.
All
thank
right,
you.
fellas.
You guys do the same.
Night.
Good night.